Hello, welcome back to Rada's Test Kitchen. My name's Blake and I'm going to be teaching you how to make Carnitas Tacos today. We have a piece of pork loin that we're going to cook up. We're going to put together a spice, rub it down, we're going to put it in the oven, we're going to saute it, then put it in the oven and let it slow cook so it's nice pull apart tender. We have corn tortilla shells. We're going to make a raspberry pico de gallo, Chipotle Cream, and put together some tacos for you. We're going to go ahead and get started by putting together the spice mixture to make the rub to rub down the pork. I have a bunch of spices here. Here I've got some cumin we're going to put in here, and I have all the recipes that will be following. You'll be able to get all these. So we have some dried oregano, some dried garlic powder, some onion powder, some coriander, a little bit of cinnamon, not much, and then we're going to add some salt and pepper. Just mix that all together. And this is a good basic recipe for just about anything, but it goes really well to be able to rub this pork down. So I've got the center cut of the pork loin, and what I want to do is just cut some slits in the pork just to allow the seasoning to get inside there. Kind of helps with the cooking as well. And put some of this spice rub right in there. All the way around. All right, and then you can't forget the ends either. You got to get all the way around. Okay, now we got this rubbed. We're going to take it over the stove and we're going to sear it really good. All right, so we got our saute pan here. Get that heated up. I wouldn't get too hot. I'm using one of these flat top burners here. They tend to get pretty hot, so I've got it a little bit low, a little below medium. After it's been already hot, you can tell by shaking the pan that the oil is real loose. That will tell you that it's warm. So we're going to take the piece of pork, fat side down. You can hear that sizzle. Give it a little shake, and we're going to let that sear and caramelize a little bit. Normally when I cook pieces of meat like this, I usually just do a kosher salt, sear it, and then I'll season it afterwards. But this one in particular, I wanted to pull the flavors of the cumin and the coriander out, so we're putting that in the pan with it. Every once in a while I'll lift it up, let that oil get underneath it again, and put it back down, and you can see the nice caramelization that's going on. It's not browning too much. We can flip it over, get both sides, try to get it all the way around, get these sides too, and then we can go back to this side and let it get a little bit more brown. The smell is incredible. I'm going to set it up on its side and let it brown on that side. Just kind of prop it on the edge of the pan. Maybe move the pan on the middle of the burner. We'll rotate it to the other side. You can see that the spices that are on it are not browning too much. They're not turning black. They're just nice and brown, and that's because the temperature is set right. Go back to that top side again. So what we're looking for is a nice caramelization on top. We're not trying to fully cook it completely through, obviously. We're going to finish that off in the oven, but we're trying to get that nice browning which wouldn't occur by just throwing it in the oven. I'm going to pull this off to the side. I'm going to put a separate pan down, pick up our meat and transfer it over to this pan. Put a little bit of fresh oregano in this pan here. Fresh bay leaf and a cinnamon stick. We're going to take a light stock. You can use a pork stock, vegetable stock, or a light chicken stock, and I generally wouldn't use a light chicken stock, but sometimes that tastes a little bit better than those pork stocks that are pre-made or those bases that they give you. Sometimes it's just ham. That doesn't taste good. That actually hinders the quality of the product. So we've got this halfway, little over half submerged in this stock. We're just going to put a lid on it, and we're going to take it and put it in the oven. Being very careful. Try to keep it in the direct center. So we seared it, we covered it in stock, we put the lid on top of the pan, we put it in the oven, and we're going to let that go for about 2.5 hours at 325 degrees, and it should be pull apart tender when we're done. Okay, while that's cooking, we're going to go ahead and start setting up all the other products. Here we have some sour cream, and I'm just going to add a little bit of chipotle and some salt to make a chipotle cream. You can use chipotle powder, which is more difficult to get your hands on than chipotle and adobe sauce, which comes in a can at your local Mexican market if you have one. But I generally use the powder. I like the flavor of the canned stuff a lot. It's got good authentic flavor. But chipotle powder, sour cream, just mix it together, and you want to let that set. It gets better as it sits. You can see the color of it starts to turn a little orange. Salt brings out the flavor a little bit. You can add a little bit of lime juice to it to thin it out. We're going to add lime right onto the tacos, so we won't add it to that. Now that we're finished with the chipotle cream, we've got the pork in the oven cooking. We're going to make a fresh salsa or Pico de Gallo. Kind of a little bit different than the traditional one, but I think you'll enjoy it. We have tomatoes, which we're going to use Romas because at this time of year it's about as good as we're going to find it. We have red onion, fresh cilantro, fresh garlic, fresh raspberries, little pepper, lime, and that's what's going to go into our pico. So we'll start by cutting our tomatoes. All right, for the tomatoes, we're going to fillet them, taking out the seeds. I do that by quartering them. Bring the tomato to the edge of the cutting board, apply a little bit of pressure to the blade of the knife, cut down at the end so you can get that end out of there. Once we have all the fillets, we're going to go ahead and cut them into small pieces. Try to keep them as uniform as possible in shape. I guess it's not really a huge deal if you're doing this for yourself at home, but never hurts to take good pride in your knife cuts. All right, so we've got the onion, and we're going to try to cut the onion in the same size as the tomatoes. bad part. Move on to the pepper. Cut it into quarters, cut the seeds and the pith out, or the white center. Depending on how hot you want it, the pico, traditionally they use a jalapeno, gives a good flavor. If you don't want too much heat, then you can use a sweet bell pepper. No seeds. Make sure you get all those seeds out of there. All right. Try to cut those the same as the onions and the tomatoes. The seeds, they don't look very good, first of all. Second of all, it depends, like I said, once again, what pepper you're going to use. If you're going to use a spicy pepper, the seeds have all the heat in them, which isn't a problem depending on how hot you want it. But I've always been taught no seeds because they don't digest well, they're just not pleasant to eat, many different things. But it's kind of a personal preference, really. Fresh garlic. This is just going to really help out our tacos here. That's why I call this a fresh salsa over a pico. It's not technically a traditional Pico de Gallo, but rough chop fresh cilantro. Really rough chop. Fresh lime juice. Make that 2 halves of lime juice, so 1 full lime. Got some pepper, salt, and then last but not least, fresh raspberries. Chop these up real fine. Break them up. You can smash them. Blend this all together. The lime juice should really complement it. I used orange sweet peppers. Didn't want it too much heat. I got some heat in that Chipotle sour cream. And you can see how that raspberry really gives it a nice color. The red onions give it a nice color. The green's a good contrast. And the onions, you know, sometimes they might be a little pungent. And the more onion you want to add, you can always rinse them under some warm water, rinse them under some cold water, and then rinse them under some warm water again, and then under some cold water. And that will kind of mild down the flavor of the onion. Lightly spraying the pan and then wiping it out under some medium heat. You take these little corn tortillas that are kind of stiff. If you were to break them when they're not warmed up, or bend them when they're not warmed up, they'll break. So what you're looking for is to warm them up, and you can feel them get warm through your hand. And eventually it softens up to the point where you can bend it and it won't break. And that's ideal. That's, now it's starting to look good there. Just take them and one at a time if you can, or if you can do more, do multiples. Put them in some tin foil, wrap them up, and they can hold for a little while. You can also microwave these if you wanted to. I just wouldn't wrap them in tin foil and put them in the microwave. That doesn't work out very well. So maybe on a plate with a damp towel over the top, laid over it, microwave them for just a little bit, not long. I always go for the traditional way and just warm it up on a flat pan. All right. Pour the juices over the top. This is a piece that I did have already done. It takes a little while. Just 2.5 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours. We got the fresh oregano, we got that fresh bay leaf. Got a cinnamon stick in here somewhere. But flavor's great. I can just tell by the smell. And what we'll do is we'll pull it apart. See how tender that is? You can strain these pieces out, and then some people will refry it in a pan, crisp it up a little bit. Others will keep it in the juices and let them soak up the flavor. All right, we have our heated taco shells. I'm using the stoneware here as a plate because it's just a great size. We have our Chipotle Cream. It does have some heat to it. Little chopped lettuce. Actually, we'll go the beef or the pork first. You see it's pulled apart tender still. So we have our raspberry fresh salsa. This is queso fresco, which is a traditional cheese. Very mild in flavor and good density, good texture. Some fresh cilantro to garnish it. A few limes here, and there you go. Voila. Very glad to be able to share with you this recipe in particular because Carnitas Tacos are easily one of my favorite foods in the whole world. I try to go down to the local market once a week just to get myself 4 tacos. So, but this is unique. This is a different style, my style, I should say. I substitute the meats for fish. You can do chicken, you can do turkey, beef, you can do many different styles. This technique I used to cook the meat is what allowed it to pull apart, and you can season it however you want, but all of our recipes will be available for you, so you can get on and try it yourself. I hope you enjoy.